Night Show! Night Show! Night Show! Night Show! Hey, hey, hey! Good evening out there in Whaler Nation. I know it's a cold one, but I had a couple updates regarding our great state and the capital city today. As many of you have read, and I'm sure came to no surprise, Amazon has put Connecticut out of the running for their HQ. And I know everyone says we never had a shot, but, you know, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, we're in the same spot we were before they even said they were going to make an H2. On the bright side of things, Fortune magazine actually named Hartford as number 4 in the country in regards to tech jobs, which bodes well for young adults, considering it is millennials and, you know, my generation filling those jobs. Also, there is a real estate firm based in Toronto that has noted, called Avison Young. They've noted that Hartford's commercial industrial vacancy dropped in 2017, which only means one thing. Jobs are coming back, which means people are coming back. It's what our city needs if we're going to remain in the fight for a pro franchise to return to the XL Center. UConn takes on number 1 ranked Villanova this week. I hope the XL Center's packed, and I hope you're there. Guys, back to you.
Man, I am I'm not doing so well today. Okay, did I fix the sound? Yes, I fixed the sound. Okay, good. Yeah, I know, Peter. I fixed it. There's too many buttons. That's what happens. All right. So, tell us about comedy.
Comedy is a lot of different things. Everything right?
Yeah, everyone's comments right off the bat, like, I screwed the pooch really bad. No sound, no sound, no sound, no sound, no sound.
I like that everybody's helping out, though.
No, I know. I know.
Would it help if I do mime?
Yeah, that's what we're
Yes,
be trapped
I'm getting
in,
yeses.
We could be
like,
trapped
yes,
in,
the sound.
We could be trapped in a box together,
That's
or we
fine.
could pull a
I'm
rope.
already disappointed.
We could hang ourselves.
We wouldn't know how to pull the distress beacon on a life raft. Imagine that. No, there's no sound.
Oh my God. So sorry about that, everybody. But tomorrow will be better. I promise. I'll do a better job. It's what happens when you smoke weed before a show. It's bad news. Brian T. Shellnut, I know the mic is on now. Man.
We need an engineer. You got money?
I do. That's the problem. Is that so? Jim works for not like $8.50 an hour. I underpay Jim a lot. I don't have the budget. So if somebody wants to that has technical skill, because you know, you can't be obviously I'm a complete moron because I can't run it. But thank you for everyone for Dave's just sitting there like, what the fuck is going on?
This is what I usually do on Thursday nights, so this isn't terribly different from...
What do you mean? What do you normally do?
No, just stare off.
Just stare off into space.
And I don't even smoke weed, so I don't have an excuse.
Maybe you should start, and that'll flip you around to where you're actually like...
I have attempted, and it's just not been something I really wanted to get back to.
What happened?
I couldn't speak.
What?
I couldn't speak. I lost the ability to speak. So
What kind of drug did you do?
Edibles.
Oh, okay. Edibles will do that to you sometimes.
Those will get you. I
no,
think.
they really they put a hurting on you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was playing Cards Against Humanity.
Uh-huh.
You do when you're in that condition.
Uh-huh.
And I'd eaten it like 2 hours ago, so I figured nothing was going to happen. And then it was my turn, where you draw the black card and the black card and read for everyone to respond to. And it was one of the really long ones, like 10 lines, the one that nobody has the attention span for. So I read it to myself first before I read it out loud, and I parted my lips, and no sound came out. And I'm really trying to say what's on the card, and I'm just like,
Oh man.
nothing happened. So I start pointing to the guy next to me, like, do you want to read this? But I couldn't say that because no speech was coming out. So I like to be able to speak if I need to. So
Right.
just reflecting
I
on
thought
that.
my first weed experience was bad, but that's tough when you can't speak.
No,
I don't know, man.
That's rare. That's rare.
Maybe
you
it's
know-
uncommon, but that's what happened. And later I was like really laughing at a teaspoon. It just wasn't an experience I care to recreate.
Comedy was never really fueled by Saturday Night Live, that's not true. They did a lot of drugs
Yeah.
in the 70s and 80s on Saturday Night Live. But comedy is really a cocaine kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Or
Like,
alcohol.
or alcohol. But Richard Pryor was huge into cocaine. Robin Williams was a huge coke. I mean, these people would do coke minutes before they went on stage, you know?
Well, not to justify them, but that probably gives you a bit of a boost, whereas weed would
it brings
relax
down.
you and make you
And makes
think
you not-
and think you're saying things out loud,
And
but
not
it's just
turn
up
on
here.
things on the... I'm just
It's
kidding.
probably why Robin Williams had like probably 80 bottles of plastic water bottles
right,
on a
and
table.
right.
And he would go through probably a third of it, maybe even half of it by the end of his set.
You know, this is not about comedy, but it is about cocaine. So live at the Elmo Combo, I don't know if you're a music fan, but Stevie Ray Vaughan had this a live thing. The Elmo Combo was down in Texas, and he used to do a lot of cocaine as well. And there's a song called Lenny, and he's sitting down on his amp, and he's kind of pasty white just from being so kind of strung out, and he's dripping sweat, and he's got like if you ever check it out, like as far as like a blues guitar player goes, he's got the cigarette smoke going and he's dripping sweat onto and it's a beautiful song too. But yeah, that was my Stevie Ray Vaughan story on cocaine.
Excellent.
So
He
yeah,
lived a hard life, Stevie.
right. So is that still a thing? Do a lot of comics still do drugs, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, I don't know. I'm sure there's
Like,
a lot
have
of
you ever
stuff.
done lines off of a midget's ass or something?
You were with me up to ass. No. I have not.
Sorry, little person.
No, I meant
person.
pancreas. No, I've come to find I'm like one of the more Leave It to Beaver era people. Like comedy tends to be like a lot of people, drugs or
You kind of look like Shelton from from Big Bang Theory. A little bit.
Like 99% of people who meet me would agree
Would
with
say
you on
that,
that. So
right.
yes. No, I just mean I feel like I'm more clean cut, sort of. More like I don't even know how to describe it. Like not the wild child that a lot of comedians had their roots in.
I was watching your thing right before we went live with no sound. Sorry. And
My comedy's way better when you can't hear it.
mine too. No, it's very dry. You have a very dry delivery, and
Yeah, I get that a lot. One of my friends had put that the best way I've heard so far, which is that my comedy is so dry you can scratch the word dry right on it.
And that's hard to do nowadays too, is be clean cut and not, get into the comic that goes up and they're fat. And that's, that's the entire show.
Fuck this, fuck that, fuck
Right.
fuckity,
Yeah.
fuck, and then,
Right.
and because eventually that if you want to use fuck in a comedy show, you should do it once.
Right.
And you should build up to it, and it should be this thing that's like, no way. But if you just salt and pepper your whole act with fucks, that's kind of hacky to me.
Now, one of my friends said he saw Ray Romano in Vegas, and Ray did exactly what you just said, like an hour set, one F-bomb. And he didn't even build up to it. You didn't know it was coming. And
It was just-
Ray Romano, it
That's
just caught
the
everyone
best
off guard.
part,
And
though.
that's it. That's the only time he used it, and that's how to be effective. But yeah, I see people who it's every fifth word. And it's distracting. You can't
It is
focus on what
distracting.
they're trying to say. And even if it's funny, it's just like you have to jump over so many speed bumps. to get to the
Have
punchline,
you
and
learned
it cuts
what
away.
some of your influences? Like some you seem a little bit Jerry Seinfeld-esque in that it's a lot of seems like these observational, dry
Little bit.
kind of.
Yeah,
not exactly. But
No, I know what you mean. I've been compared to him before. Do you know Brian Regan?
yes, yeah,
I've seen him live probably like a dozen times. Also very clean. Like, families go to him,
Yeah,
and they're fine with that. The polar opposite of Brian, sort of in terms of comedy, in terms of content, but also somebody I'm a big fan of is Louis Black.
love Lewis.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't like. I will occasionally get a little bit like he gets very angry. I will occasionally get like a little
does.
bit agitated, but again, occasionally, and I try to use it effectively.
You had a little bit of an edge, though. You seemed like you were a little bit angry.
But I try to
Not angry, irritated.
Right. No, I know what you're saying. And I try to not really give anything away when I go out. A lot of times, if you see somebody who clearly looks and acts stoned even before they take the mic, you kind of know they might still be funny, but you know what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
People don't really
No
know what they're
sound.
getting with me. And I try to use that to my advantage. I did a show, like my first year, I was doing a show in New York, and I was wearing a sweater, as I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And a girl came up to me after the show and said, when they called your name and I saw you walking to the mic, I immediately knew you were going to be boring and terrible because you were wearing a sweater. And she said, I couldn't stop laughing at you. So I try to not let people know what to expect, because comedy is largely about the unexpected.
Peter says in the black world, he's considered the ashy comic because he's so dry.
That's a new one, but I won't dispute it.
I was reading that halfway through, going, "Oh, this is almost inappropriate," but whatever, it's fine. And so, of course, that was Peter, our mutual friend.
Yes,
there.
yes.
That, yeah.
Yep, Pete.
Russ McGovern says it was a sad day when Robin Williams died. No,
That
shit.
was so unexpected. And you know what? Honestly, was even sadder was about a year later when they explained more about what happened.
I know.
I think his wife came out and kind of bared it all.
Yeah, that he had some
about
sort
what
of
was going on with him.
exaggerated. He would have been gone in a few years anyway. That's
Yeah.
just like, how do you?
Awful.
I don't think his lifestyle helped him, when he was
No.
young, but
Not at all. But I mean, by that point, he was already at like legend status.
Of course.
and it was very unexpected. Even though you knew he had a rough life, and what we were talking about, how he used to prepare for his shows. I'm sure that took a toll, but
Yeah, but he wasn't doing that in his later years.
I don't think so.
No,
unless he was keeping it silent. And
I don't think he was.
No.
And he was one of my favorites, man. I learned so much about timing and that energy too, like how almost that energy is contagious. You know what I mean? When you bring that energy, you got to be pretty curmudgeon-y audience member to just sit there and be like, yeah, like this is not for me. And that's something that happens more and more. Like when I was into comedy as a kid, you could get away with saying a lot more.
Yeah.
Sam Kinison was, out of control.
Yeah.
He was definitely misogynistic.
Oh yeah, even if you go back to like the first couple of seasons of Saturday Night Live, that classic skit with, I think it's Chevy Chase as in an office, and he's screening Richard Pryor, and they're doing word association. You couldn't do that today. Imagine if they aired that
true.
today.
Yep, I know.
With the current cast. They would be like, they'd have to go on hiatus for months.
Yeah.
And NBC would have a lawsuit.
So how do you feel about that as a comic? Like I've seen it, especially in the last 10 years, just go to a politically correct land of.
It's very aggravating. It hasn't affected me too much because most of my comedy is like PG at best. So I don't really get into a lot of controversial topics, mainly because I don't really ever feel like I come up with enough good stuff to say about that. I just, whatever I think of, I say, and it's just more generic stuff about life
very
or whatever.
polarizing too.
in the controversial stuff is, it's saturated. Every comedy is
Yeah.
saturated with
Right.
the basic controversial thing.
Yeah, and usually the topical stuff, by the time I could think of anything I might think is good enough to try, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Trevor Noah, they've already got it. They've got a team of writers, and the best stuff has already been said. And with the frequency of weird news coming out now, it's like several a day. You can't keep up with that stuff. You talk about something that happened a week ago, people have already forgotten because 24 even weirder things have come out in the news since then.
Right.
So comedy for me is, I don't get into that, but it's a break from that. Like, turn your
That's
phone
what
off.
this show is supposed to be as well.
Yeah.
It's not, don't turn your phone
I'm sorry.
off.
But no, I didn't mean the listeners, no, or the viewers.
But it's not a. This is not a sort. This is an apolitical place. It's not about. This is sort of like when you're going to bed. We don't want to get you riled up. We want to sort of like ease you into your evening of respite. You know,
it's a break from the chaos of your day, whether
your news feed.
Yeah, whether it involved your news feed, but also any family or any stress or things you're going through in life. Comedy should just be a reprieve from that. Go to a show for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Enjoy what you're watching. Laugh. Get away from it all. Think about the inanity of life and listen to these guys talk about their view on it. That's comedy's kind of always been that, but I feel like even more so in the current
the political
world.
Satirists are definitely like at their A game right now because there's so much material to work with. You know
Russ McGovern, this is relatable. They say the funniest people are the most troubled inside. He's not saying that you are. But how many people, and you don't have to name names, but do you come across more or less people in this profession that are troubled?
It's almost a given on some level. I mean, I feel like everybody has their issues and deals with them in their own way, but comedy is such a breeding ground for people who struggle with stuff, and this is one way for them to get it out. I did a class before I started because I just want to get some ins and outs and like how do you do stand up before I actually tried it, and that was a long time ago. But I still remember a lot of the things the instructor said, and one of the things she said was a lot of the people who do that, it's their therapy. Like they're in therapy, and getting up there and talking about all these problems is cathartic. It gets it out of you. The stuff that you're thinking about all the time. What do I do? You write it down. Just like musicians are often trouble too. They write songs. Their heartbreak, all the difficult stuff they're going with, that goes in their songs. Or people who paint. Any medium you get, they can get it out. Mm-hmm. Comedy is one venue, and if people feel like they've got comedic skill and can make other people laugh at their situation, maybe it's relatable because a lot of people they're making these jokes to might be dealing with the same stuff, and it creates like a bond. Yes.
Yeah. I spent the last 17 years of my life on stage, and I've never this is like a very a deep thing for me, but I'm never more comfortable unless I'm on stage. When I'm on stage, I'm socially awkward in a small group. I hate coming to meetings here and having to sit with 20 people and have to have that sort of that back and forth banter. But I can go in front of 1,000 people without being prepared, you know, and step in front of 1,000 people and come up with something that would be entertaining because I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Time slows down for me. And when I'm done, I have it's what I imagine skydiving would be like, but you know, when you get in front of 1,000 people and you're doing a show, you're the pilot of that jet, and you can feel this energy coming off people. You can feel when jokes miss. You can feel when jokes don't hit, and then to go and workshop that shit. You know, like, fuck you, I think this shit is funny, but the way that I presented it wasn't funny.
Yep.
So you go back on stage and you take that hit again. Okay, that wasn't it. And then finally, maybe you go, okay, well, this obviously isn't fucking funny, but you're doing it in front of 1,000 people. Yep. And I think
I know a lot of comics who would relate to that they're home behind that mic.
Yes, it's my therapy. And here is a little bit different than being on stage for me. You would think that the transition from being a stage performer to a DJ would be easy, but there's nothing coming back.
There are differences.
I'm literally just putting out these words and these things and jokes that I think are funny, but no one's ever laughed at before. You know, so like some of the shit that I do is really dumb, you know, and some of it is a dumber, you know what I mean?
But here and there, you're going to get the feedback from people saying, "Hey, I heard you on the air the other day," or
no,
you know,
it's
what
true.
you said the other day was really
but
funny.
I'm used to that immediate feedback,
yeah,
you know, that you get from being on stage and getting that feedback. So, and for me, it wasn't really like about being like a dark place or being depressed or being like necessarily upset with my life. It was just that I was missing something, and I always was seeking attention and always trying to get it. And now that I was a stage performer and I sort of get it out there, I don't have to be like that in person. I'm not that guy that's always like, "Hey, how's it going? Good to see you." Ha ha ha. Hey, want to hear a joke? Because I'm getting it all out.
Yeah.
You know? And that's where I do it, is on stage.
And that got you there to where you don't have to think like that anymore.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's good.
So for you, what's your like? Why did you? Like you said you wanted to take classes. Why was that a thing? Were you drawn into the world of comedy?
Well, when I was a teenager, if you had told me that I would be a professional stand-up comedian in my adulthood, I probably would have called the mental asylum because I really would not have believed you. I was like scared of my own shadow. As many teenagers are just worried about judgment from every corner of everything anybody have you say. So I've somehow managed to pull myself out of that. But I used to enjoy watching stand-up comedy, cable shows, Comedy Central. And I would just kind of got to this point where I would think of stuff I thought might be funny, so I would just write it down. And that was like years before I had any idea I'd ever actually be doing this. And I got so much stuff. And then sometimes when I would just be having a casual conversation, a casual, easier to say than this phrase, casual conversation with someone, not even trying to be funny, just saying what was off the top of my head, people just started cracking up. And I'm just talking. I'm not really going for anything here other than conversation. And I eventually started thinking, if this is happening when I'm not even trying, what would happen if I did?
That's right. Do you write a lot?
I write.
Sorry to get off topic.
No, that's fine. I write. Creative writing is different for different people. If I think of something, like I don't sit down for like an hour and say, I'm going to write for the next hour. Mm-hmm. I'm at the point now, and I guess it's kind of always been this way. Ideas for comedy material, they come when they come. So if I'm driving and I have a thought, I think this might be something I could make funny, I have like a voice thing in my phone. I'll just pick it up and say a phrase into like my notepad so that when I can get home.
That's what I do for the radio show.
Yeah, because if you don't get it down right away, 5 minutes later it could be gone.
Yep.
So you have to have like now it's easier with the phone. Earlier, back in the day before smartphones, you had to have like pen and paper with you at all times.
And I was always awful at that. Awful.
One of my friends once accidentally sent his notepad, forgot to take it out of his pants pocket before his pants went through the laundry and lost his catalog.
Everything. That's the word.
Like, it would be bad if you did that with the phone, but at least most of your stuff on your phone can be easily backed up.
No, that's now, yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I might go months without coming up with anything I think is good to add, and then I might come up with a whole bunch of stuff in a
how
space of a couple
How
weeks.
do you know when? Do you ever get to a point, and just from what you said right there, you might not write anything down for 2 months, but there's got to come a time where you think to yourself, I got to start coming up with something because I need to work.
You get nervous. You kind of get nervous that you're not funny anymore.
I feel like that every day.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
Sorry, what was your question?
Because you mentioned that sometimes you don't write for a long time, but is there times where you're thinking, I really need to start writing, to the point where it might even force you to write stuff just to write stuff, and then you kind of don't even like what you're writing down after?
I won't really take it to that level, but I will sometimes stop and think it's been a while since I've added anything to the catalog. Let me just start thinking down that road. But I've been doing this for 15 years now.
Yeah.
So I have enough of a arsenal of material that I can pretty much do the same, like, standard stuff. Like if I get booked to perform on a weekend, I can do what I have. And what I'll sometimes do is go off the cuff when I'm there. If there's some unusual thing in the room, a decoration in a hall or something, I can make jokes about that because everybody's already seen it, or maybe talk a little bit about the people. I don't do a lot of crowd work, but I might talk a little bit with the audience. When I first started, like the first several years, I had to be like letter for letter off the printed page that was in my mind.
Right.
And I couldn't deviate at all. And if I did, I was lost and I was deer in the headlights. And that happened a couple of times. It's not the best way to be, but I wasn't very improvisational initially. So I had to have my set memorized hard and fast exactly as I wrote it. And I couldn't deviate one word when I was up there. And I did that for years. And that was okay because I had a lot of good sets that way, but you really don't grow that way. You really have to be on your feet. If there's a heckler, fortunately, I haven't had to deal too much with that. Or if there's a noise or something happens during your set that everybody's attention goes to, you kind of have to go with their attention and go off the cuff.
Well, in radio, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We wrote down everything when we started.
Yeah.
And then we were just like stuck to that. And then coming out of that, finding your voice. I think it's the same in comedy as it is for radio. You have to find your voice, and you have to find who you are on stage.
Yeah.
Because Dave Sheehan, that hangs out at wherever Dave Sheehan hangs out at, is not the dude
like
that
Pottery Barn.
Pottery Barn, or
No, but that's exactly
Williams Sonoma.
And it's only
you
really
look like you would have a wine decanter.
I might.
Got to let that Carlo Rossi breathe.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's actually in a box.
Right, exactly.
No, but you're very right about that, and it's really only been in the last last half of my career to date that I've been focusing less on the material. Not that I'm not trying to write good stuff, but in addition to that, focusing, like you said, on the character, finding who you are as a person, because you don't really think about that in your early years. All you care about is, I need to make these people laugh. And of course that's important, but there is more to it than that. And you're gonna get there more smoothly once you know who you are and who you're not.
That's right.
Yeah.
But there's no time frame to that.
No, absolutely.
You don't know when that's going to happen. You know, I mean, all of a sudden it just kind of clicked for me here. And so doing the like the night show live on Facebook is a newer thing for me, where I'm sort of going into something unscripted and I'm just sort of having to talk and ask questions. And I do kind of prepare. You came as a late guest for us because we had someone cancel, and we appreciate you coming down. And that happens. And I would rather fill it last minute than just talk to Jim. Although Jim was a great guest. We had Jim on.
Tuesday I was the guest.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about Jim's time in the Marines. So thank you for everyone that tunes in and watches. If this is your first time, it's the Night Show Live. I'm Ryan Roberts. Jim Lauber is my producer. Dave Sheehan is my guest tonight. He is a comedian from West Haven, and he travels all around the United States performing. And some great questions. And there was one really good comment. I'm going to have to hire, Kevin Regan says, I'm going to have to hire a midget to punch me in the balls at 8 o'clock so I know you guys are on. And Brian T. Shellnut says, I'll do it for free. And I don't know if that comment was...
and I think they were... That was the same conversation, I think.
I don't know, but it's funny.
If it wasn't, it goes good together.
It's funny to read, though.
Does it have to be a midget? Is there something special about that
little person?
No, that's not what I meant by does it have to. I meant anyone could punch you. Why specifically a midget / little person / dwarf?
I think that they just think that's probably the funniest thing that they could have. We should try to give an award for like comment of the night or something like that. You know,
I agree.
But then again, all these crazy assholes would be like, "Oh, I'm going to."
It's going to be flooded with hack jokes and
that's going to happen now anyway because you're throwing this idea out there, even if you're revoking it.
I know. Oh man! So thank you again, everyone. Michael Anthony Lombard, the Wolf of Connecticut. We played your report in the beginning. I saw you tuned in a little bit late, so I think you missed it. But here we're gonna have a little word from our sponsor.
You are watching The Night Show Live with your host, Ryan Roberts. Sponsored by Weed. The reason you're in sweatpants all day. Weed, created by God.
Okay. Got to pay the bills, right? And who better to be sponsored by? So thank you once again for everyone commenting. Please comment, share, and like. Soon we're going to be trying to do a giveaway. Whoever shares our little show right now will be entered to win, and then Drew's going to pick out a winner the next day. So you'll know on Monday, if you share it, you're going to go into a list, and then on Tuesday, we're going to announce the winner at the beginning of the show, and you're going to get tickets to something. Boss Keith actually cleared this, and he's on board. We got to talk to Drew when he gets back from vacation. So that's going to be happening. There's going to be tickets to give away, and hopefully if we maybe want to hook up with some comedians, we can get some tickets to their shows as they kind of come through and cycle through. So that's an idea, and I'm proud of that idea. Careful Mike has midget porn fetish. He might. And Brian T. Shellnut back again. Now, Brian T. Shellnut has been with us every single night that we've been doing this, and we gave him a call last night. Thank you very much for being there for us, Brian. And so we got off topic a little bit. Let's get back into the PC side of comedy and how that's sort of almost, in my mind, it's ruining the business because it's not you don't step on stage and have that complete freeness that you used to.
Yeah, I mean, there are some comics who thrive on controversy, and I think they're the ones struggling the most now. And it's affecting comedy as well as pretty much any aspect of society. And it's bad because what it's basically making people think is that if I hear something I don't like, it's that person's problem, not mine. So they have to fix it. But that also takes away from making you a stronger person in general, because you aren't always going to like what's happening in the world. And the more you feel like it's other people's job to make me happy, the worse off you're going to be in life. It's always been that way. But that mindset is really being enabled now in every sense of the, word, as well as for comedy. So if I've talked to people, nobody's really ever come up to me after a show and said, I found what you said offensive. They may not have liked a joke, or they said, I didn't know what you meant by that, or I did like that joke, but I know people who have told me that someone's come up and said, you shouldn't say that. I went through that. This isn't fun. Okay. Well,
I think, I won't speak for everybody, but those sound like the same type of people that always have to whatever happens to them, whatever they run into, it had nothing to do with them. Something was done to them.
That's part of it in a lot of cases. Yeah.
Even if it was their fault.
That's certainly possible as well. But then there's, if you had a traumatic life experience that involved a certain common type of tragedy, and then you hear somebody make a joke about it, of course it's going to remind you of your own experience, and there was nothing funny about your experience. That they're not talking about your experience, so you are making that about you.
Yeah, you're projecting your experience on everyone.
Yes, and you're making it about you, which it isn't, and then you're complaining to that person about you, which is not what they're doing.
Right.
So that is going to continue to happen, and I think a lot of people in the industry are combating it. Some give the apology right away, depending on the context, and if they stood their ground and ended up getting aggressive and rude to defend themselves, that's not really necessary. But
political correctness was and is an idea that's there for people that can't defend themselves. You know what I mean? Like for instance, like saying, like, making fun of a kid with Down syndrome or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's inappropriate because they can't. I mean, here I go. I'm digging a hole, but right. But it's different when you say I'm offended. Because who fucking cares if you're offended? You know what happens when you're offended? Fucking nothing. Nothing.
Everyone
who
gets
cares
upset
if you're
because you
offended?
complain. Yeah.
Like, you are a capable human being that is capable of managing their feelings. And that's sort of what I mean about politically correctness covering certain kinds of people that can't defend themselves, right? So go fuck yourself. I don't care if you're offended.
And also, too, I've ran into people, the easily offended, that as long as whatever they think is, if somebody says something and they laugh at it because, it didn't happen to them or their loved one, but the second you say something that they can relate to themselves, then they get all mad.
Yep.
And
Which
I know
is ridiculous.
I know people personally who have laughed at stuff that they would be the first ones to say how, that was awful because my grandmother died at a zoo. And you talked about a
and
guy
you
getting
said the
killed
lion
at the
joke.
yeah.
I can't believe it. You're
I
just
mean,
awful. You're an
Yeah,
awful
now they're
person.
mad.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Because that's what I had in mind.
Platypuses are off limits.
Yeah.
Because that's what I knew about. I read about your grandma in the paper, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good joke. No. Dave, Russ McGovern says, does Dave have stuff on YouTube? And Kevin Regan says, everyone is fair game, even midgets. Little people, Kevin.
I have a lot of hidden Easter eggs, I guess. I was telling the guys this before we started. I don't have a big presence on YouTube because I generally tend to, for people who are interested, I try to encourage them to come and see me live. So I don't usually put like what I would do in a current show online. There's an older clip that I shared with Ryan earlier.
I'm going to play a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's fine. If you Google my name, what's probably going to come up is this Hollywood movie reviewer along the lines of like what Roger Ebert did, who has the same first and last name as I do, and he's probably the most famous person in America with my name. Every so often around Christmas time, I'll look in my local TV listings, and there's like Dave Sheehan's Hollywood movie review. And it's not me, but all of my friends message me saying, why didn't you have me on your show? I was like, I don't know what's going on here. So that's probably what's going to come up if you look up my name.
And you can find you on Facebook as well. Correct?
Yes. I think I have a MySpace account, but don't look for that.
I still have a MySpace account as well.
I used to go in like twice a year just on principle and watch the tumbleweed roll across the screen. But I think that a lot of people who, with a lot of services like that, if you don't log in for a certain amount of time, they remove your account. And it's mostly geared toward musicians now, which I'm not. I think they kind of try to salvage it and make it like a music social networking site.
I had some music up there, and it disappeared. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, my stuff's probably gone. But
I think that was also back when you could post videos and music and nobody cared. Now everybody, hey, you're playing my song.
Right. Here's a little clip from Dave Sheehan at where is this gig at Treehouse?
This is at Treehouse Comedy. They did a contest. This is from 2008, so we're going back a ways. I think if you're going to play the part you played earlier, there's some dated references here. Just so that
you didn't have to mention it because I skipped it.
Oh, okay.
You said that.
All right. Yeah. So it may be current. I'm not sure what he's going to play.
I'm a tall guy, as you can see, over 6 feet since I was about 12. It's the result of human-programmed machine logic. So just imagine playing the same game without the machine between you and that programmer. So you don't sit at a slot machine, you sit at a slot person. You just hand the guy $3, you poke him in the shoulder and you say, "Did I win?" And he says, "No." All right, here's 3 more. How about that time? No. All right, come on, here's $10. Did I win anything? Sure, here's a quarter. Go buy something cute. You start replacing slot machines with slot people, I guarantee you every casino in this country would be closed within a week. Slot machines. To me, they are nothing more than the mechanical equivalent of strippers. Think about it. You walk in, there's a whole bunch of them, they all look glitzy. You pick out the one that's most attractive to you. You swagger on over to her with your hopes really high. You sit down in front of her, you size her up. You're just thinking, you and me, baby, let's make it happen. And then you start with the money, the money, the money, the money, the money, the money, the money. Part of you wants to stop, but that little voice in the back of your head keeps going, just give her a little bit more, you're gonna get something good, I feel it. But then you run out of money. And what happens? She stops talking to you. So you run to the ATM to get more, but by the time you come back, there's another guy who's gonna take in your seat. Now all she cares about is his money. She doesn't even remember you. And you storm out of there muttering to yourself, "Gave that bitch all my rent money again." Another month of eating nothing but Hot Pockets and ramen noodles. But I'll be back here next month and I am so gonna score. I was at a gentleman's club recently for a bachelor party, That's such a stupid name, Gentleman's Club. A gentleman is a prim and proper chap with a top hat and a monocle reading the Wall Street Journal. I don't see too many of those fellas at this place sitting by the catwalk. Who do I see there? This guy. Doesn't move the entire time I'm there. Every once in a while, the bouncer comes over and pokes him with a stick to make sure he still has a pulse. It's unbelievable. I'm always awkward at those clubs. The whole experience is nothing but a big tease.
So that's Dave at Treehouse Comedy, right? Half of you? Yeah. Sorry about that. Got a lot of shit going on over here. Leave me the fuck alone. There's a lot of shit going on. A lot of buttons.
Well, just imagine the listeners walked into the show. People do that sometimes.
I'm the worst. I apologize. So
I already said before, my comedy's better when you can't hear it. You're just reinforcing it.
Halfway through, he goes, I don't think the thing's on. I'm like, no, it's on. It's fine. Everything's fucking fine. What are you talking about? It's not like I messed up once already. And Peter he texted me last night. He's like, you really need like a camera guy, like a camera operator, because I'm running the soundboard. I'm running the interview. I'm running all of the cameras, and I'm trying to talk and make sense. And I'm not that smart. So
he's got it down to a science.
Yeah. Well, so I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen, for my lack of technical prowess. But everything, all you got to do is just make more frowny faces. But the thing is, when I was watching him, I can't watch you.
Is his mic on?
No.
Has it been?
Brian T. Shellnut for the save.
Yeah. There we go. See? Too many buttons. And now my screen's all blurry and I can't see anything. It's perfect. What a great day this is. So if you have any comments, please please share, please comment. Dave Sheehan's in studio. Most of his mic was on for a while. I'm the worst. Let's go to some questions. I know, right?
They're all going to go to Ryan, though.
I know.
All the questions are, when are we going to be able to hear you?
Yeah. Holy shit. Fixed. Yeah, I know. Try the Braille version. Ha! Good job, Steven. Oh, my God. Fix the sound, guys. Where are you? Let me just ask you, where are you? What are you doing?
Where am I?
Well, yeah, you're supposed to be monitoring.
I was just about to ask him a question.
Trying to throw him under the bus.
No, I had a question from before. So you said you really haven't gone far and wide, but you've been to, I'm sure, like Massachusetts, New York.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you keep a mental note of where you've been and what material you've used to make sure you're not using it in the same? I've always wondered how comedians do that.
Well, I do keep a log of every show I've ever done. For the first many years, like 7 or 8, I did write down the bits I did.
Save.
What?
Jim for the
save.
I kind of fell off the habit of that, but I do still have I may have missed one over the years, but I do have a pretty comprehensive list of everything since 2002.
Okay.
That I've done. I don't know. I don't tend to worry as much anymore if I'm doing the same stuff at the same place. Because if it's an established room, like where they do shows on weekends, I'm not going to be there any more than twice a year. They would rotate people. So if you see a comic and then you see them a year from now, even if they're doing a lot of the same stuff, they're still probably going to be funny. The audience isn't going to remember your stuff as well as you do. So even if they hear something like, oh, he told that last time, they might just think, oh, I remember that from last time. Oh, I remember that from last time. That's really funny, even the second time. So I don't think the audience worries about that as much. So I might have a loose mental note of a joke I might have tried out for the first time at a place and it went really well. So I added it to the act and I just happen to remember that that's where I first tried it. But it's not as big a concern to remember what you did where. I might, like I said, might stay in the back of my mind, but I'm more interested in just keeping a log of all the places I've performed at. And
because what comes to mind is Pablo Francisco.
Yes.
He used to do the movie phone guy.
Yes.
Guys like that, I think, can get away with doing things more than once because it seemed like he got big from doing the movie phone guy, and it almost seemed like every time he went somewhere, people kind of like Man on the Moon, Andy Kaufman. They're like, do Latka.
Right. And he hated it.
Right.
Or Jim
Hated it.
Gaffigan with Hot Pockets, that kind of became,
Yeah.
he kind of became really well known for that.
Yeah, right.
But that'll happen if you do something that audiences really love. They end up wanting to do it. Brian Regan, who we were talking about earlier, last several times I've seen him, has added like a 5-minute thing after he finishes his show. He'll come back and do an encore where I'll ask the audience to yell out their favorite classic bits, and he'll do 5 to 10 minutes of old stuff to wrap up the show. And to get to that point is incredible, where people know your entire catalog so well, they just want to hear it. And they called it. There was one show I saw him at where somebody yelled out a bit, and I remember it from one of his CDs, and he couldn't remember it. Like, it had been so long since he'd done it.
Wow.
And with all the other new material he's got to work on remembering, he could not remember that. So like, he apologized to the person and had to take a different suggestion. But imagine being at that level where you've done so much.
It's kind of like Billy Joel. He just gets up there. Who wants to hear Piano Man? All right, you got
Yes.
Piano Man.
Yeah, they become like
That's it.
songs. Do the
Yes.
You know, Jim Carrey was at that point when like people would shout out like impressions for him to do.
Yeah.
Do like
Do-
Sammy
do
Davis.
Bruce Dern.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. Exactly. I'd love to take a phone call. So if anyone is brave enough to give me a ring, you can call me at Ryan Roberts on Facebook. You'll recognize my picture. So friend me. And Dave Sheehan is also on Facebook. Friend him, Jim Lauber. He's on MySpace, so you can find him on MySpace because he's with the times. Sorry about all the technical difficulties I was having today. It happens. There's no excuse, except Jim was not on the ball.
I made a producer mistake.
He didn't. It was all
5
me.
seconds into the show.
You ever think about going on Last Comic Standing, says Russ McGovern.
I'm honestly not sure if that's even still on. I
That's
know
a
it was
process,
on
too.
for many years, and then it was off, and then they brought it back. What I found out in the early version is that it shouldn't be really surprising. It's very political, and it seemed like what they were looking for were people who were already like well established in the business, already had agents. They kind of made it look like it was the American Idol of comedy, where you have some woman who works as a waitress in Iowa but happens to have an incredible singing voice,
Right.
so she tries out for the show and goes for, rags to riches. It really wasn't that way. It was all signed people. It still was kind of fun to watch, and I could never really watch it because even though a lot of the comics were funny, only like 10 to 15 minutes of a 1-hour episode was the actual act. The rest was like judges and the heartbreak and the drama and everything else that goes into reality
Yeah,
TV.
I don't have any
thought-
money to get home.
I
when
can't-
get-
I don't want to watch
That's what it really was about.
Right, and that's why I didn't, even though it was comedy, I really didn't want to see it. So I wouldn't go for something like that. I feel like usually the producers and whoever's putting together shows like that, they already have sort of types in mind that they're looking for. And if you watch 1,000 comics, you're going to find 3 or 4 to fit those types, and that's what they're going to go for.
That's right.
So there's a possibility that somebody might like something about my style or how I am, but if you don't fit that tiny little hole in that enormous pegboard,
Right.
it's
the same for
it's
radio.
an experience to go and do it, but it's just I wouldn't pursue
Same
something
for
like
radio,
that.
man.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I
think-
can't do the night show almost at any other station. I can't do the night show on the radio like I do the night show almost at any other station. They give me a lot of freedom and a lot of. It's almost like an old school radio show where I'm doing a lot of produced pieces, and I can go a little bit longer. Some, like they're called hot ACs, adult contemporary
Yes,
stations. Everything is bright and tight and oh, this is the new Justin Bieber song. Did you hear that Justin Bieber was blah 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 blah? And now boom, Justin Bieber. They don't give you. It's not about a conversation or making a joke or none of that shit. It's about the music just moving on, and there's like a voice that's there. I wouldn't fit in a hot AC station.
Nope.
If I applied for like a classic rock station, maybe in Detroit, I could probably get a job there. Why would you want to move to Detroit, though? But not in like a hot AC station in Atlanta, or A, I don't look the part, and B, it's not what I do on the radio.
See, everything is like TMZ now, and that Did You Hear
Yeah,
About thing.
right.
I grew up listening to Casey Kasem, an American Top 40, which like a big part of my childhood, and most of my life was listening to that. And it was mostly the music, but it was also the way he told human interest stories, factoids about people's chart careers and all their big hits and how they compare to other artists.
And his voice.
Yes.
His voice was a huge part of that.
And do you know who hosts American Top 40 now? the guy who hosts everything now, Ryan Seacrest.
Wow.
And it's all, like you just said, that was Justin Bieber at number 12. Oh, did you hear who he's dating? It's almost like the music doesn't even matter. It's like, let's get to the gossip.
Right.
The countdown is secondary.
Just like you said, man.
Yeah, and I can't, it's sad to see what it's become. Of course, there's always a market for that. In the 80s, there was like Entertainment Tonight, tabloid papers. There was always a interest in that. It's just, that's dominating now. Yep. And like, is this your 19th top 40 song or your 11th? Nobody really cares about that.
No one cares.
Anymore.
It's just about money. Yeah. I'll tell you a quick little story. I know this is about our guest Dave, but it's goes to the question that you asked about Last Comic Standing. I was a semifinalist on America's Got Talent, so I auditioned in the Cattle Call in New York. I got moved on to a producer called me. They flew us out. I was working with another dude. Flew us out to L.A. and we performed live in front of the judges. It was back when
was it Sharon Osbourne was in there too?
Sharon Osbourne, Hasselhoff, the Hoff, and Niels Piers or whatever, the British guy from this was
Piers Morgan.
Yeah, Piers Morgan. Yeah, Piers Morgan. Yeah, thank you. And so we performed in front of the whole live audience and got put on to Vegas. And when we got off stage in Los Angeles, there was a film crew with a director there, and she's like, "So you guys just are going to Vegas? What do you think?" And we're like, "Yeah, we've worked really hard, to get here. We've been performing for a long time." And she's like, "Stop!" She's like, "No, you're really excited. Like this is new for you." Like, and so they had asked me what my previous job was before I started doing my show. So I did a comedy juggling show. I know, right? So they asked me what my job was, and my last job that I had before I decided to go pro and do performing for a living, I was working as a cook at Lake Compounds in the catering department, flipping burgers. And that was legitimate. I was 21 at the time, right? And after that, I was like, fuck this. I remember I was grilling outside, and I looked down in my pocket, and I had the thermometer for the meat. It said 140 fucking degrees. And I was like, you know what?
In your pocket.
In my pocket. Yep. And I was like, all right, this is enough. So that's what they want there. You just got done flipping. You're flipping burgers, and now you're on stage, and you're going to Vegas.
There's nothing real about reality TV. It is so forced and structured.
It was not real.
I feel like... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. And we realized after that it wasn't about the performance at all. It has nothing to do with your act or whether I was funny or not. We didn't have I sang this song to my mother on her deathbed story.
Right.
This is the song that I always sang to my grandmother, and she taught it to me, and her mom taught it to her, and we grew up on a farm in Kentucky, and this is the song that she always sang to me, and then she was in hospice.
She died at the zoo.
And the dramatic music plays in the background, and they have a B-roll of their house, and it's all about the backstory and pulling at the heartstrings of the viewers. It had nothing to do with talent at all. At all.
Because how many people do you think that story related to? That's the whole point behind it.
Right, exactly. Because people are watching television, because it is a television show.
Right.
They're watching television going, "Oh my God, that's so sad."
Yeah.
God pocket.
Yeah, that's all it is. I feel like I have a difficult enough time being myself, and then I'm gonna go. This producer is gonna say, "Don't be you. Do ABC." Like, no, I'm gonna do what I know to do.
Right.
Actually, this is. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say quickly on the same topic. There's a popular game show that came out last year. I don't know if you've seen it, called Beat Shazam, where they play songs and you're supposed to identify popular songs faster than Shazam.
Oh, I see.
I've always been knowledgeable about like popular music. I would be really good at that show, but I have the personality of a head of cabbage. And one of my friends and his friend auditioned, and they more or less said without saying, "You're not interesting enough." So I would never get on that because of exactly why you said, because those people are on there trying to get a house for a family member that lost. I don't have that. I would just like to play the game, but the game is secondary.
I would just like to have fun.
Yes, I would like to have a fun, incredible experience and go on this show. But no.
So Roy Coulihan.
I was going to ask that question too.
Oh, you were?
Great question.
I'll take it. So we were talking about before how you're pretty PG. I mean, you don't rely on the lewd comments or anything like that. He has a question about Can a comedian still be popular being clean? And in your experience, how successful? What's the success rate of being a clean comic?
I work with a number of them that are like the sketchiest I get into is like innuendo. Like none of the words I'm saying are dirty, but
Right.
if you know what I mean, I'm not exactly talking about kid friendly stuff. But I think that's funnier than dirty, filthy, sex related stuff. And I work with a lot of people who do 45 minutes pretty clean. And I worked with a guy for the first time about a year ago who said that he'd been in the business 25, 30 years, and no booker has ever come up to him and said, "Could you work dirtier?"
Okay.
So
That's very
that's
true.
a guideline, because when you get in, I think a lot of it's overwhelmingly men that do stand up. I mean, there's women that do it, but just the ratio. I don't know why women just aren't as interested in trying, but I've met so many more men doing this than women. And you know what guys think about. So when most of them get into comedy, that's what they're going to talk about on
Right.
stage. And yeah, there's ways to make that funny, but if you think that's, they watch guys who can be dirty and funny like Howard Stern or Dave Attell, and I think they think that it's funny because it's dirty, and that's not the case. He has those guys have ways
delivery.
They write
It is
well.
and someone made a comment, and I forgot who it was, but delivery.
Yeah, delivery and what you're writing and how you're talking about those things. That's everything, regardless of what you're
Timing.
talking
Yep.
about.
Yep.
So yeah, I've talked to people who have been told, or I ran a fundraiser last year that I wanted to be clean because it was for a family, and a friend of mine, I asked, like, I'd like you to do this. Could you do 10 minutes clean? And he said no. He could do 10 minutes, but not clean.
Not clean, right?
So you got to write what you think, and initially for a lot of guys, it's going to be that, but there is more going on, and it is only going to help you if you're trying to write comedy to be able to write clean. Overall.
Little Boy Blue. He needed the money. Oh, that's my favorite comic.
Oh, Dice.
Andrew Dice Clay, man, one of my favorite comics ever, and one of the only comics to ever sell out MSG.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a rock star of comedy back in the 80s, and I think he'd sold out MSG. I have to look this up, but maybe not just once, but I think he did it 2 or 3 times where he sold out MSG as a comedian. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he was an exception, certainly. He was dirty, but he was the force for a long time.
Mm-hmm. So, Stephen Edward Janowich, the hour definitely flies by. I know this is supposed to be like a 30-minute show. My boss was like, "Why don't you do like a 10-minute thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do a 10-minute
If we
thing."
did that today, it would be 10 minutes of no sound.
Right. Oh, man.
Da-da,
Yeah.
da-da-da.
Oh, you're so right.
I'll be here all night.
I'm the worst. Yeah, so I was wearing, I have actually a logo shirt of the, someone commented 99 Rock. Yeah, that was the, what PLR was many years ago, 99 Rock. And you could tell the hardcore listeners, because they still refer to, sometimes when I'm giving away tickets, they'll still refer to the station as 99 Rock. I'll say, "Who gave you these tickets?" 99 Rock. I'm like, "You've been listening for a long ass time." It's true. We got a lot of hardcore listeners. Thank you for everyone that tuned in this evening. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I promise I will get better. If anyone, I should start a GoFundMe campaign to get a budget to actually hire somebody to come in to actually do. Because the thing is I could pass it along and I could have you come in every night.
Oh, what about like an intern, like a high school kid or
Okay, but I'm
college
not
kid?
going to let a high school kid
Well, it doesn't have to be a lot of money. We'll just
Run-
get them right out of college.
right.
Someone get them for the experience.
It's true.
Who's
but
interested in
I've got a
communications.
vision, and I don't believe that a high school student can complete my vision. Like, go ahead, talk, Jim.
Hey.
Not just talk like you're talking.
Oh, just talk?
See? Now, like, boom, you're talking, and I went to your cut of your
Right.
camera, right? And now I'm going back where I'm going to, like, talk to the people. I know that I'm going to talk to the people, so I know what camera angle. And then if I do, like, an interview shot, I can go like this and then have you and me in the screen. I just don't trust people, man. I just don't trust. I mean, I know there was no sound for 10 minutes, but an intern's going to do the same fucking thing, right?
Well, don't get someone off the street. Get someone that someone knows, or that the radio station has a connection with. That way, you're not
I
just.
feel like I need a budget.
Well, if you keep building this up, hopefully, before too long.
That's right. I'm
It'll
glad
happen.
You said it, not me, because I I need a budget.
You can also pay
Just so that it runs. I don't care. I just want things to run smoothly and not have people give me like fucking
Well,
sad faces when they can't hear
I was
you.
wondering what all those were coming through.
I thought
was like,
I don't
the show
like-
suck tonight?
No, they just didn't like my act.
They couldn't hear your fucking act. Oh, man. I'm the worst.
Some interns will work for Miller Lite, so see what's out there.
Yeah, but then you're going to have drunk interns running things. And if you think it went bad this evening, imagine having a drunk 20-year-old intern. It's not going to
Yep.
be good, man. I'm telling you. Sound? What? Yeah, need sponsors. I know, Brian T. Shellnut. I've got my weed sponsor, but apparently that's not a good sponsor to have when you're trying to do so many things. So thank you, Russ McGovern. Thank you, Kevin Regan, Tody Tagney, I think. I'm sorry if I mangle your fucking last names. I work for Pizza and Beer and PLR merch, says Tony. Stephen Edwards says, it's still 99 Rock as far as I'm concerned. You're old. He said it. I didn't say it. Peter,
I'm probably the oldest
Peter
one
says,
here.
I'll fucking do it, man. Yeah, but you got your own show to run, Peter. So, yeah, Chris Parsons says, go fund us. I'd love to fund you, man. Listen, if I get funding, then I will fund you in whatever you want. But until I get funding, you're fucked because I'm out of money.
We can have a big fund party when everybody's
big
funded.
fun party.
It's called GoFundYourself.com.
That's right. Thank you very much, Brian Sheehan.
Thanks, man.
As our guest, and you can.
What did you call me?
Dave. I'm sorry. Jesus.
I've been called worse. I actually have been called Brian.
No, I was reading Brian T. Shellnut's comment here at the same time.
Well, Shellnuts and Sheehan start with the same two letters.
Right. So, Dave, thank you very much for coming on at last minute.
This was
really
fun. Thank you for
funny
having me.
dude. And where are you going to be and when?
Next Sunday, the 28th,
28th.
I'll be at Side Street Grill in Hamden, running a show with a bunch of very funny folks from the Connecticut area. Costa Azura Banquet Hall in Milford on Friday, February 16th, and the previous Saturday, a Treehouse show in Westport at Bistro B.
Right on. And they can get tickets at the individual venues, or is there one
Usually the venues themselves. Side Street Grill in Hamden, Bistro B is through Treehouse, and then Costa Azura is through Extreme Comedy. Usually you call the venues themselves as opposed to like a central office.
Gotcha.
I believe. Yeah.
Well, thanks once again for coming on. Sorry about the sound problems. We'll have you on another night.
I could hear you guys fine.
Yeah, that's all,
Sounded great to me.
That's all that matters. Thanks again to my producer, as always, Jim Lauber the
Yeah.
third.
Good night.
And you got a camera, remember, Jim?
Yeah.
You got a
Oh,
camera
that's-
now. Yeah.
That's right.
See?
Look at that.
Yes.
Look at that shave.
Whoa, the Big Flex 5.
Yep.
Who turned you on to the Big Flex 5?
Ryan Roberts.
Ryan Roberts. Wow, shameless Bic promotion. I'm Ryan Roberts, The Night Show Live. Thank you to everyone that watched. Please comment, please share, please like. We're going to start off very soon, and I'll let you know what's going to happen. Everyone that shares the show is going to be put into a group. We're going to basically put your names in a hat. Drew is going to pick out a name the next day, and at the beginning of the show, I'm going to announce the winner, and we're going to have tickets to things in typical PLR fashion because that's what we do. Thank you, everyone. See you guys tomorrow.